For the third year in a row, the Milwaukee Bucks are headed home in the first round. And for the third year in a row, people are questioning Giannis Antetokounmpo's future with the team. Giannis came out after the fact and said that he didn't particularly want to comment on his future, that he wished he was still playing basketball, that he wished he was still competing, and that he's going to go into the summer and think about his future. Now, Giannis is a guy who I think gets looked upon worse because of his team success in a lot of ways. It's a mixed bag because I think people often give him a lot of sympathy because of his lack of team success, and people also don't put him on the same level as a Jokic or even a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander this year because of his lack of team success. I want to ask you first, should Giannis seek a trade from the Bucks this offseason?
Yes. Dude, in this kind of industry, these teams don't care about you. The only reason the Bucks kind of care about him is because obviously he's a superstar, but they have not. Dude, Damian Lillard, like the way they lost was so embarrassing, and one of the reasons was Damian Lillard tore his Achilles in like what was that, Game 5 or Game 4?
That I believe was Game 4.
I think it was Game 4.
Yeah.
There is no reason for him to be excited about this team. Kyle Kuzma was awful. I think he actually played good in that Game 5 off the bench, but what, is he just going to be a bench guy now? You're paying him all this, what, he's getting $30 million a year. You traded Chris Middleton for a bench guy. Brook Lopez is only getting older and worse if he wasn't already pretty bad already. Mm-hmm. All you have is Bobby Portis, and I'm trying to think, who else? Gary Trent Jr.? There's nothing to look forward to. They don't have any picks in the future. And right now is the time for Giannis to be selfish. If there's ever a year, because like the last 3 years that he's lost in the first round, and let's even talk about 4 years ago when he lost to the Boston Celtics in the second round, it's never been his fault. You can say him being injured is his fault, but that's just the luck of the draw that he's been hurt. Overall, every time the Bucks have lost, it's because his supporting cast has been worse. And if I'm him, I'm selfish.
Yeah. I mean, Giannis has perhaps been the best player in the NBA overall in the past 6 years. I don't even think that would be crazy to say when you look at that 6-year span and say, you could say Jokic, obviously, but, 2 MVPs and a DPOY versus 3 MVPs. Giannis has been great. And I think the biggest thing for the Bucks is they've consistently made the wrong moves. They didn't hold on to Malik Beasley when they had the chance to. Now he's, doing what he's doing in Detroit. Had a great year there. They traded Chris Middleton for Kyle Kuzma in an attempt to, I guess, get younger and better, and just ended up getting a worse player. My biggest thing, I agree with you. Giannis needs to seek a trade, and the biggest reason is because Dame has 2 years left on his contract, and he's getting paid $60 million. And I'm happy for Dame in that regard because I'm glad that Dame's going to get his money in spite of his injury, because he has next year and then he has a player option for $60 million. But that takes up so much cap space along with Giannis's contract that they legitimately are going to be in a Phoenix Suns type situation where they just don't have the money to sign enough players to make the team competitive. Now, I believe the team could try to trade Brook Lopez, trade, Bobby Portis if they wanted to try to really change the structure of the team.
But what are you getting for them?
That's the thing.
You're not getting anything
for Brook Lopez. Bobby Portis.
Maybe.
Bobby Portis, it has to be a specific situation because he's, like you've said before, he's the type of guy who functions best when he is kind of the center of the offense.
And you don't want him to be.
No. And there's few teams that really need a power forward who you need to run a heliocentric offense around, whose skill set does not lend itself towards handling the ball, right? Yeah. So,
and it would be one thing if the Bucks, because you can't not have your first round pick every year. Eventually, like every other year for the Bucks, it has been swaps. They've had a couple of draft picks, but not a single draft pick has been useful in the last 5 years for them.
No.
AJ Johnson was used in the Kyle Kuzma trade. So that's a first round pick gone out the window. Early second round pick, Andre Jackson Jr. Did he touch the floor? I don't believe he was ever on the injury report, but he never touched the floor. So they just keep whiffing and whiffing on these draft picks. And there's no reason to give them the benefit of the doubt that they will successfully draft someone good.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they have a pick this year. I could be wrong.
I mean, even if they do, like they could draft someone good, I guess they're going to get like a late teens pick probably to an early 20s pick. So
yeah,
there's a potential that they draft somebody good. But I guess if you're a Bucks fan, that's the one thing you can look at and say is I don't know how much better AJ Green is going to get. I think he's kind of what he is, which is a solid role player.
He's pretty old, isn't he?
AJ Green?
Not old as like actually old, but like isn't he like 26, 27? It's not
Well,
like
he
he's
might
some young player.
he might be. I mean, he's not some young player, and we've seen guys take a jump when they get older, but he also, I feel like he is in his role that works for him. Andre Jackson Jr., freak athlete, so there's a lot of potential there if he can develop other aspects of his game. But the clock is ticking for Giannis. Giannis is 30, 31 years old. He's in his physical prime right now, and he won't be forever. And he's one of those guys who, when he exits his physical prime, it will definitely affect him. I think he will still be effective, but he obviously relies a lot on his speed, his quickness, his jumping ability, his strength, all of that. So he needs to take advantage of these next 4 years, and I think it would be a tremendous shame for Giannis to retire with one ring, and that sounds crazy. Because guys like Dirk retired with one ring. But for, guys like Kevin Garnett retired with one ring, right? These greatest power forwards of all time. But Giannis has and obviously Tim Duncan is the greatest power forward of all time. And it looks like at this point he will maintain that, even though at one point Giannis was challenging that.
Right.
But I think Giannis retiring with one ring is a disservice to his talent at the end of the day. I think he should win more than one ring. And I think he should go somewhere that allows him to do that, which as long as we're good and you've said what you have to say, that brings me to kind of the next point. What is your ideal landing spot for him?
It's a place. Here's the thing. If you're Giannis, you can't go to a place that just has enough assets to get you. Because then you're just in the Bucks situation again. Like I kind of look at, okay, so ideally you go to OKC.
Of course.
Because they have so many assets where they don't have to deplete their team to get you. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, like ideally, yeah, you want a guard like Dame that you also have a couple of different pieces. So I mean, a couple of teams I've seen mocked. I have seen the Hawks mocked. I don't think it's really realistic, but it's like a Jalen Johnson centered trade.
Yeah,
I don't really like that because I don't think the Hawks have. I mean, we have we have Niang, Levert, but like. Those aren't reliable pieces that I want. I'm not too confident in a trade Giannis duo when there's like, I mean, I don't know. If you keep Riza, you keep Dyson, maybe.
But it's also like,
you gotta wait with all your picks.
Can you truly like get Giannis for Jalen Johnson and some picks?
It just depends because like honestly, I say ideally the best landing spot is OKC. OKC might not want him. So like how many teams like okay you want him?
True, but I mean. Like, why? Because you don't think they want to break up their core?
They might win the chip. If they win a chip, there's no reason to make a drastic trade, especially because their salary situation right now, OKC's is like so good where, you're giving up multiple players for Giannis. And then like, it kind of complicates things. Like
it does, but you're telling me like Chet Holmgren, and Aaron Wiggins and draft assets in terms of giving up those and maybe like a Case and Wallace for Giannis.
If they win the chip, no. Because Shea's game is it's not like reliant on ISO ball because he can play the pick and roll. He can do a bunch of different things. Mm-hmm. But if you win a championship playing ISO ball and then you have Giannis on your team, I don't know. Like you're just kind of breaking up the play style that won you. Like, yeah, you have more talent, but you're breaking up the play style that won you the chip.
That's true. So I think if they win a championship, there's no chance that he goes there.
However, if they don't, they have too many assets. Like this is what OKC's been waiting for. Mm-hmm. They have made like almost zero trades.
Yeah.
They just kept, stockpiling these first round picks. They've been drafting guys who like have potential, like Nikola Topic, who hasn't played a single second of NBA ball because he was hurt his entire rookie season. But yeah, they have too many players and too many picks for their own good. And who else are you going to trade for? Because they have to there's not enough space on the roster. They already have like 13 guys on their roster. I just spit a little bit. They already have 13 guys on the roster that can play NBA playoff minutes. That's not a joke. Like I look at a guy who's the 12th man, like AJ Mitchell, and if you watch that dude in college, like I did, and then you look at what he's done in the NBA so far, shooting 50% from the field and 39% from three as a 6'3" guard, like, and he's he's pesty and stuff, like
pretty good.
That roster is deep. Mm-hmm. You don't need more depth. You don't need more draft picks. You've been waiting for one player. They didn't want to settle for Kyle Kuzma. They didn't want to settle for all these other guys like John Collins. They didn't want to settle for these guys who were in rumors for so long. They want a guy who could actually change the team. And how many players on the block? How many players on the block can actually change the OKC Thunder because of how good they already are? Giannis is one of the only undoubtable players. But if they win the chip, I still stand on they don't.
I don't think you can. My only thing about Giannis is the same thing you talked about is fit. Does Giannis fit with that roster? Because that roster is constructed almost perfectly right now. When you really think about who they have, where's their hole? What even is their hole? Like, honestly, I guess maybe you would want a Malik Beasley off the bench or someone who is a more explosive scorer consistently. Like, you know,
scoring, like shooting is like their like hole, but it's not a hole. It's just like they're not overly great at it.
Right. So, you know, when I look at their roster, Giannis doesn't obviously provide shooting at an above average level, even though he's a great mid-range shooter. He's not going to be able to space the floor like that.
Yeah.
And obviously, you want to go get a guy like Giannis if you have the opportunity to. You just don't say no to that. So I think given the opportunity and them not winning a championship, that's where I could definitely see him going most likely because of their draft assets and their player assets. I just don't know fit-wise if it's going to work out as well as the talent would indicate it would.
Would you give up J-Dub in a Giannis trade? Let's say they lose like in 7 in the conference finals or something.
Actually, if I was giving up J-Dub,
because then you'd also have to give up. Let's say, that's a lot. Like I know it's Giannis. Don't get me wrong. Like one of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah.
But you'd have to give up J-Dub and probably, I'd assume Hartenstein, because like why would you want Chet? I mean, you'd want Chet, Hartenstein, and Giannis, but that's a lot of money going just for your bigs. You know what I mean? Like so, ideally, if you're the OKC Thunder, I want to keep Shea and Chet, especially because Giannis and Chet sounds like a ridiculous duo.
Yeah.
Like
I think if you trade J-Dub, that actually improves some of the fit issues, right? Of like just where he fits on the court with them. I think then you trade Hartenstein, you trade J-Dub, you get Giannis, and then you get a shooter to go into the starting lineup. Yeah, maybe Giannis is aside from shooting, is a better version of J-Dub in a lot of ways. A lot of ways. The only thing he doesn't do as well is probably just 3-point shooting. Everything else, playmaking, rebounding, scoring, defense, you're getting an improvement, right?
Yeah. Well, and mid-range shooting.
And mid-range shooting, right? I mean, I want to give Giannis his due credit. It has only been 1 year. We'll see if it's a flash in the pan or if next year he keeps this up.
But also, I mean, credit to, like, yeah, we can credit Giannis for the percentages, but J-Dub shoots tougher mid-ranges. Like, that's just, like, Giannis.
He does.
It does kind of feel like even if he's making it, he's kind of settling when he shoots a mid-range versus J-Dub's actually, like, a threat. Like,
because at the end of the day, if you are defending Giannis, you would rather he shoots a mid-range than drives to the basket.
Yeah, versus J-Dub, I'm actually comfortable with J-Dub shooting, like, ideally at the rim, but, like, any of the 3 levels. And like,
you guard him more like you would guard a 3-level scorer.
Yeah.
Than Giannis, who is just so dominant at the rim. But yeah.
So, I mean, we've talked about OKC. What's another? Because, like, I've heard a lot of Houston Rockets rumors as well.
Houston is the other one that I think
you'd have to give up.
Is really interesting. I think you got to give up Jalen Green, probably.
I'd say you have to give up one of Amen or Sengun.
You think?
Yes, because the thing is, OKC, if they wanted to, let's say they didn't want to give up J-Dub, which, by the way, J-Dub, I mean, we can talk about something like that later. But, like, what would they give up? Jalen Green and 4 picks? Jalen Green, Tyrese and 4 picks? Do you think that's enough? Versus OKC's, even if OKC didn't give up J-Dub and Chet.
You probably got to give up Reed Shepherd.
Yeah.
Give up Jalen Green. Give up 4 picks.
How much
and then give up Jabari. You probably got to give up Jabari Smith too, because I would think the Bucks would be looking to go young. Tari Eason is a little bit older than those other guys. He's not super old, right?
No, he's like he might be like 24, 25.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not like Jabari Smith's like what, 22?
Yeah, probably.
Jalen Green's 22. Reed Shepherd's like 20.
Is that like I'm just not sold on Jalen Green's ceiling anymore. Like after, like, don't get me wrong, the playoffs, the Rockets game is tonight.
Yeah,
Jalen Green could go for 40 and change my mind again.
He could, but, and I mean, he's genuinely like one of the differences He's probably the difference for the Rockets in a lot of ways. If he has a great game, I think they win. But if he has a bad game, then they have a hard time producing offense. Like,
yeah. But still, they somehow won last game.
Sorry, I want to get off on a tangent just for a quick second.
Okay.
I hate the way the media has been calling him their superstar. Every single game I've watched, the TNT crew, the ESPN crew, all those guys, they keep going, there's Jalen Green, their young superstar. There's Jalen Green. Even during the broadcast, they're like, Jalen Green, their young star, he needs to show up today. Alperen Şengün is the best player on the Houston Rockets. And it is infuriating that he made an all-star team this year. He has been the best player for the Houston Rockets. He's probably a borderline all-NBA player. And they continue to push this narrative of Jalen Green being a superstar. He is not. Jalen Green is a great offensive player. There is not much else that he provides to the game than great offense. And sure, when he can provide that great offense, it's incredible to watch. But Alperen Şengün is the reason that offense works. Not only is he a great offensive player, he is also a really good defensive player too. And it's really, I understand, it feels like a marketing thing because Jalen Green is more fun to watch than Şengün. And they want to market the Rockets that way. But he is not the future of the team.
Yeah.
And Şengün is.
I mean, one thing I will say, I don't think he's a really good defensive player. He definitely holds his own for sure.
He's got really good hands.
He does. And he's impressed because I always thought he was like a cone. I actually think he always played like a cone up until like Udoka started like really coaching him.
But he's strong and he's quick enough on his feet. And like, that's the reason that him and Steven Adams works a lot of the time because those are both guys who move very well for guys of their size. Yeah. Right. And
by the way, you went on the Şengün tangent. Jalen Green isn't top 2. Amen Thompson, even though like he's had some playoff stinkers so far, the last couple games he's been good. Amen Thompson's their second star.
Amen was good last game. He was really good. And look, Jalen Green is a guy who, if he could put it all together, could be a star, but he just hasn't. And I don't like how because he's the top scorer on the team, just because of points per game in the regular season, which I guess he is the top scorer, but like that's any given game, right? Like he could or could not be. That somehow he's the star because he scores 2 points per game more than the next guy.
Yeah, but the value of his game is how important his scoring is. Like as important as Şengün's scoring is, Jalen Green, like they don't like they won by a bunch. Like at one point they were up 30, but like without Jalen Green's offense, they actually have like no perimeter play whatsoever. Fred just takes like catch and shoot threes. Like, it's kind of weird.
He's been taking more off the dribble shots since he's got his rhythm back in the last couple games.
Yeah,
but I mean, my only question is: are they worse without Jalen Green, or are they worse without Şengün? And I think the answer is pretty easy, in my opinion.
Oh, I think we have differing opinions from that because there's no one to replace Jalen Green, but there is Steven Adams.
Yeah,
that's someone who can you can't replace Şengün's score. Whatever, we are on such.
Yeah,
we are so
but I not the first time we've argued about an athletic shooting guard and a European big man. So this will be a debate until the end of time.
I mean, Jalen Green's nowhere near as good. It's just important. Like that Rockets team is nothing.
Yeah,
there's a reason they have to rely on him.
That's fair. But going back to Giannis, OKC.
Yeah, OKC is obvious. The Rockets, they do. Şengün is like an up and coming. He might be all NBA like star, but like if they want to take the leap, you do need a guy.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as you want to rely on a guy like Amen Thompson, like it's just a ceiling. We don't know if he'll ever be a shooter because I do think he needs a respectable, not great. I'm trying to think of a player to compare him to, like their 3-point shooting. But like he needs a respectable 3-pointer so that guys play up a little bit. Because like as great as he's been these last 2 games, he's been awful. He was awful the first 3, and can you rely on him taking the superstar leap? No. Maybe you can rely on Şengün, but personally, I would try and get Giannis if I'm them.
Oh yeah, I mean I would still try to get Giannis. My thing is the Rockets don't have a superstar right now. That's my other thing. There is no superstar on that team. Şengün is just the best player. He's the quote unquote star player.
Yeah.
But no. So when I look at
and they have Suns picks.
Yeah,
they could do something with that.
They could. Yeah. It's just whatever. You got to figure out the timeline that works for you, right? Because you can't just perpetually pick guys and develop them, and you got to make sure everyone's on the same timeline to compete for a championship.
Yeah.
Amen right now actually does remind me of a mini Giannis. That's kind of what he is.
Yeah.
He's incredible around the rim. His athleticism is often the best on the floor.
Always.
Like almost
He's the
always.
most athletic player in the NBA.
He might be. Yeah, I actually, that's not even crazy to say. So,
Just a smaller version.
It's just a smaller version. I think even if he could develop a more respectable mid-range game, that would benefit him a lot.
Yeah.
In terms of developing a three-point game, that is the difference between him staying at this like very good to star level to elevating to a superstar. If he can shoot 37-38% from three, he will become a borderline superstar just because of everything else that he can do.
But is that something? So would you trade Amen Thompson and a couple picks and like Cam Whitmore for Giannis?
If I could get Giannis right now, yes, I would.
Because I think the Bucks, that's so intriguing. Like, of all the players we've talked about, like,
yeah.
I don't know. Because I was thinking about talking about this before. Is Amen or J-Dub's ceiling higher?
Yeah.
Like who do you... Because technically Amen's ceiling is higher, but, like, if you... I would bet money on J-Dub being...
I don't know. You even want to get into it. Fred VanVleet said something earlier this week. He said that Jalen Green, the only player in the league that might have a higher ceiling than Jalen Green is Anthony Edwards. And I would say the only player in the league that has a ceiling that looks comparable to Anthony Edwards is Amen Thompson. Because if Amen Thompson can start shooting the ball at a decent clip, Amen Thompson's ceiling is higher than Jalen Green's. Don't get it twisted. Yeah. Like, Jalen Green has shown us in a lot of ways who he is. He's an incredible scorer, to sometimes a not very good scorer, but that's what he is. He's an incredible scorer, right? He doesn't rebound at a high rate. He's not a great playmaker. He's not an incredible defender. He's a good defender, I would say. I would say he's an above average defender, but
he holds his own.
He's not. Amen Thompson is the best perimeter defender on the team. He's a great playmaker. He's a great rebounder. If he can add 3 levels of scoring to his game, that's it. He's got everything.
Yeah. So we talked about the Rockets, Thunder. What's another team?
So you talked about the Hawks briefly. I don't personally like that fit very much because I still feel like even you add Giannis and Trey together with the way that team would have to look to get Giannis, I'm still not a huge fan of that.
Yeah, because the team's just too young. Because then let's say Jalen Johnson. Let's say you add.
You're betting on Ricochet having that jump.
Yeah, and. I think eventually Ricochet can have a jump, but it's not going to be year 2. Dyson's a great player, but at the same time, you put him in these high pressure playoff moments. Like he is like a little bit of an offensive liability, even though he's like the best perimeter defender in the NBA.
And then like Kobe Buffkin is another guy.
He's barely played because of all the injuries.
Can't play, and so
he might even be in the trade though.
He could be in the trade. Vic Krejci, Georges Niang. These are just guys that don't move me particularly as role players. Right?
Yeah.
And you're taking up a lot of money to get Giannis. I don't know what kind of contract Jalen Johnson is on right now. He did sign an extension.
It's like
right.
It's probably like 30. It's like 30 million a year. Like
yeah.
it's actually pretty low.
It's pretty. So you're still doubling your salary in a lot of ways to get Giannis.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've been thinking about where I'd like to see him go. You know, a team that could really use him is the Indiana Pacers.
And I just beat him though.
I know he would never go there, but you think about what the Indiana Pacers lack and what Giannis needs around him. They have it in spades, and Giannis has it in spades. You need interior. You need an interior and perimeter defender. Giannis provides that. You need a physical paint presence. Giannis provides that. You need shooters around you. The Pacers provide that.
I understand all that. They don't have the assets
to get him.
No, because if the Bucks do this, then they want young assets. The Pacers.
You're right. They don't. I mean, you could give them.
Mathurin is not good enough. They don't want Siakam. It'd have to be a 3-team trade.
Yeah, it would. So that's. But in terms of fit, I think, and it's unlikely due to the fact.
Fit wise, yeah, but who are you giving up for fit?
Yeah, I mean,
let's say in a hypothetical, someone wants Siakam.
Imagine this is finally the Miles Turner trade. Imagine this is finally it, Corby.
And it's for Giannis. You know what team that no NBA fan wants to hear, but a certain fan base would love? The Bucks could get Zion. This could be a moment where the Pelicans have Trey Murphy, they have DeJounte, they have CJ.
I didn't even think of that.
You swap, and so it's because I did see it on Twitter. It was like a 3-team trade, and I think it included I believe it included the Blazers or something. Maybe the Blazers even were the team that got Zion. But I like this idea. Also, by the way, the Pelicans have the Bucks future picks.
Yeah.
So you
So
give
they
up
g-
Zion and like 2 first-round picks, and
You're-
you get Giannis.
You're giving them like you could give up Zion and just give them their picks back. Because you said they have the Bucks future picks. The Bucks are
Yeah.
gonna want their picks most likely.
Right. So yeah. So you give up Zion and then those 2
So
future
in
picks.
essence, you're just giving them back their picks and Zion for Giannis.
Yeah. And maybe you add, they also have a couple extra. Oh, actually, I don't know if they have a couple extra because they gave them to the Hawks. But maybe you give up like Yves Missi too.
My thing is Zion still at the level of value where you could trade him and picks for Giannis?
He should be.
Because I think with the injury history and with the stigma around him, people and it is a stigma in a lot of ways, not necessarily a reflection of reality. Because yes, he's had problems staying on the court, but he looked great this year.
He looked amazing.
He was lean. He was the lightest he's been since I think high school. He really looked great this year. He looked like the Zion Williamson that we've seen flashes of that, people think he could be.
Pretty much played point guard. I mean,
yeah.
I can't think of who was
But-
Jose Alvarado.
But at the end of the day, if you are an NBA GM and you are like, I want to, because right now Zion is 23, 24.
Yeah.
He's at the point where, within 2-3 years, you'd want to build a competitive team around him, right? Is Zion a guy that you want to bring in as the quote unquote leader of your team? Because Giannis is a leader. Giannis is a guy that people will rally around. Is Zion that guy?
I don't think the best player necessarily has to be the leader, and I think the Bucks have multiple years before they need to find their leader.
That's true.
So
But
also, I wanted, like, when we talk about guys like J-Dub and Amen, Zion's only a couple years older. Like, those two are guys who I'm pretty sure they were, like, 20, 21
you're right.
going into the draft. Yeah, Zion is only, like, 2 years older than Amen, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. No, that is definitely a positive of Zion.
So you talk about a ceiling, Zion probably still has
he's
the highest ceiling. And we've
Yeah,
actually
he
seen the production.
He probably does, yeah.
Bringing a terrible Pelicans team, this was like 2, maybe 3 years ago, or about 2 years ago. Zion bringing a terrible Pelicans team to the playoffs. Yes, he got hurt in the play-in tournament.
Yeah.
But what he did that year was amazing. He's actually like really elevated his game every year, even if the stats don't necessarily show it. Like you can just kind of tell, oh, he was a better playmaker this year. Like the passes Zion was making this year. Also, by the way, he's in New Orleans. Maybe was Anthony Davis a leader in New Orleans?
No, I
New
mean,
Orleans, amen.
But has Anthony Davis ever really been a quote unquote leader? Was
Yeah,
he a
you're-
leader
you're-
on the Lakers?
No,
Yeah.
you're right about that. But also, we don't know. Maybe he'd be a leader if LeBron James wasn't on his team.
You're right. So maybe now on the Mavericks, I mean, that's something to see because he truly is just back in New Orleans now with Kyrie Irving being hurt.
Yeah.
So
So I think Zion could always, turn into a leader because like I think the Pelicans have just let, as much as I love Zion, the Pelicans have let him do whatever he wants. Like just eat
Yeah.
unhealthy and like you can't trade him because he has all the power. Zion is the only reason that Pelicans fans buy tickets.
yeah,
If he's not playing,
They-
it
no,
would
people-
it would have to be Giannis.
people don't care to come to the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I could definitely see it happening. It's unfortunate because I think the narrative is so different if Zion doesn't get hurt last year in the play-in.
Yeah.
Because he put up 40 in that play-in game. People were like, oh, my God, this is the Zion we've been waiting for. And I just think the narrative changes a lot if he doesn't get hurt. Funny enough, I saw an interesting clip, and it was DeAndre Jordan, of all people, who is you'll see him sometimes, you'll not see him sometimes. He's 35, 36 years old. He's there for leadership. He's a Jeff Green type guy, right? He went to like a movie theater or something, and he called his nutritionalist and was like, can I eat popcorn? And like looked like a kid asking his mom if he could have a snack.
Yeah.
Like the way that these people, like these NBA players take, like how seriously they take their diet and everything just shows that I do think a lot of it is on the Pelicans as well. Because those teams assign those nutritionalists to those guys. Those guys get assigned their dietitians and they get assigned their trainers a lot of the time, unless you are LeBron James, and then you probably hire your own trainer, right?
It's been an underrated story for years, and I've been mentioning it for years, how the Saints and Pelicans own the same medical staff for years. Not only does they don't know how to treat specific NBA, like how to recover, how to slowly get back and all that. I would doubt, and also how much of your time are you spending on the Pelicans versus the Saints,
Mm-hmm.
which is why also a guy like Michael Thomas has probably always been hurt. He's been sharing it with the Pelicans,
Yep.
and also nutritious. Zion might be. Maybe he's dieting like they're telling him. Maybe he has the O-line D-line diet.
Maybe.
You just never know these things.
That's the problem.
I just want him to be in a new atmosphere and we just see what it is. I want clarity.
Yeah.
Is the Pelicans atmosphere that bad? Because if Zion, I don't want to hear anything about luck or this is like why, or Pelicans fans say why has this happened to me? No, if he leaves the Pelicans and he's all of a sudden a top 10 player, an all-time great, it is on the Pelicans because we've let too much go.
You know what the other thing is too? For all the stuff that people have said about him being a slob, being fat, the Pelicans have never once in my recollection come out and said Zion Williamson needs to improve his work ethic.
No.
So either they are checked out or he's doing what they're telling him to do and now he's slimmed down because now that's what they're telling him to do.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's crazy to think they wanted him to be big.
Well, not that big.
Not
As
okay.
big.
Not that
but
big.
yeah, they do.
But
They probably
still.
did want him to
They
gain
still
some
probably
weight.
wanted him to be closer to 285 at a lot. And now he's down to what, like 270, 265, something closer to that.
Yeah.
Which is a much more manageable weight for him.
Which is the one good thing that the Pelicans did do is put in his contract have a clause that like you can't be this weight or over. Like you have to be under this weight. That was the one good thing they did. But before that, they were doing nothing to help his case. And honestly, like besides him being super overweight, which it is terrible, and it speaks about Zion's character, or not character, but yeah, his
Work ethic, I
work
guess, or
ethic a little bit.
complacency, or whatever you want to say about
Besides that, he's just had a couple freak injuries. Like I don't know, yeah, there was that one year where the injuries were his own fault, but outside of that, like you can't control those kind of things, and we give a lot of players leeway. I'm a Hawks fan. Jalen Johnson, I think the last like 2 years has had an injury that's made him miss a good amount of time. I give him the leeway. I don't know why I wouldn't give it to Zion. Like I'm not just you're always injury prone. This is why we want to trade you. Like no, like
I feel like people in a lot of ways do forget that in college, when he was the best player in the country and the clear number one pick in the draft and a generational prospect, he blew his shoe out, which was not his fault. That is on the shoe. His shoe just exploded on him, and that caused him to get hurt. Then he played through that injury in the NCAA tournament. Then he, rested in the beginning of the NBA season. But I just feel like people underrate that injury in a lot of ways. Because if you look at his injury history, it really does start there. He was never a guy who got injured a bunch in high school. It was that shoe blowing out, and then he's had this history of getting injured. So you have no idea. I always tell like my dad this because he likes to kind of be one of those guys that's a little bit of an old head and kind of like, be like, I don't think he's actually that hurt. I think they're just being cautious with him. I think they're just this and that. Maybe that's true. I think people know more now about how even if your right leg is hurt, it increases the possibility of your left leg getting hurt because you're putting more weight on that leg. You're putting more pressure on that leg, or your right leg is more likely to get hurt because, there's underdeveloped muscle even after the injury heals, right? Because the muscle hasn't been developed in the same way over that period of time. Yeah. And I feel like people, when you look at like this progression of injuries in high level athletes, especially someone like Zion Williamson, who is high flying, who is just naturally a very large human being, even when he's completely slimmed down, that is impactful. The fact that he had that setback and then played through it in college, right?
Yeah.
And I think now he's gotten to a point, also losing the weight that's helped, where he hopefully doesn't have to worry about those freak injuries anymore. But, I mean, you just never know. You never know how something like that affects you over, a lifetime, because we don't have all the information about structural damage, about muscle composition, about all these things that the team has.
No, we don't. So I mean, yeah, if I were the Bucks, you find a guy who's already like an offensive engine, and then you just try and draft some defenders around him. If Andre Jackson could ever get like a legit if you ever had to really guard him to the 3-point line, like he's already a high motor. He won at where did he play? It wasn't UConn.
No, I think it was.
Oh, maybe it was UConn.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's always been that defensive, just high effort guy.
Yeah.
They can get a couple pieces. Maybe you get someone else. Maybe you get Jordan Hawkins as well from the Pelicans, who he's like he hasn't been great overall in his NBA career, but also UConn guy.
Another piece,
Yeah, another piece, just all around shooter. Pierce. But yeah, I mean, besides though, I'm trying to think of any other team that is like ready for Giannis.
I mean, everyone always wants to throw out the classic, the Warriors, the Lakers, all that stuff. Warriors don't have the assets to trade for him, and neither do the Lakers.
Oh, the Nets. Wait, the Nets is like the obvious one.
I just wouldn't want to see him go there. I'm going to be honest with you. That's why I didn't say anything. Because do you really, like, with that roster, because they're probably going to have to trade Cam Johnson.
Right.
Or Cam Thomas, one of the two, to get him.
I think they probably, trade Cam Thomas.
I would think so, because Cam Johnson fits better next to Giannis if you can get away with keeping him.
And I mean, he has like the higher ceiling, as a scorer.
I mean,
it has to be a lot of picks though. I just kind of realized because like they don't
really have assets.
If you're the Bucks, do you want to trade Giannis and just get assets? Like no, you want a player. Like you want a good. I know Cam Thomas has like shown this high scoring ceiling, but I'm not building around Cam Thomas. I'm just being honest. The Nets don't even want to.
The only asset that you have as the Brooklyn Nets is if you get the number 1 overall pick. And I'm going to be honest, with the timeline that the Brooklyn Nets are on, I don't think and given their history, I mean, who knows what they're going to do. I don't think you trade Cooper Flag for Giannis at this stage of the game. I think your team is not ready to compete if you get Giannis. I think Cooper Flag fits your timeline a lot better. And I think if he turns it into what we think he's going to be, he'll be, or if he, I guess maybe not what we think he's going to be, but like what his ceiling is. If he achieves his ceiling, then he will be a guy around Giannis's caliber, and you will get more years of that out of him. So you should focus on building a team around it, because right now the Brooklyn Nets aren't winning a championship if they get Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's another like 2 years almost of building the team in.
I disagree for the only reason of like they can offload a lot of salary. Like they're one of the teams where you get Giannis. I don't think they have that many players still on contract. You can build in free agency. It's just like, but also when you do that, you're relying on getting all these free agents, and then like, who's the best free agent available? Right. Is it like Harden or someone?
Brooklyn just historically has constantly tried to do this, building through free agency thing, and it just hasn't worked. Like if you look at a lot of the teams that have won championships in recent history, the Celtics are one that you could look at and be like, yeah, they got built through free agency, but it was over a period of a lot of years, right? First it was Derek White. Then they got Drew Holiday and Porzingis. Even before that, it was Al Horford, right? It was a progressive buildup to this. Drew Holiday and Porzingis were obviously the straw that broke the camel's back on them winning a championship. Right. But, they already had Tatum and Brown there. They already had an established core in a lot of ways. They just needed to find guys that fit that mold. They knew what the mold was. They just needed to figure out who can we get that improves that and fits that mold better. Who's Marcus Smart, but better, right? Who's Al Horford, but better? And that's basically what they went out and got.
I think the only best ways to win a championship through free agency is probably getting those 7th and 8th mans off like the minimum, like a Bruce Brown, type.
Like look at what the Warriors did in 2022. They Draymond, Poole, Thompson, Curry, Looney, all those guys were already there to begin with. Then you had like Moody and Kuminga, who were guys in the draft who played some minutes in the playoffs, not a ton, but they were still valuable. Bjelica and Gary Payton II and Otto Porter Jr. were the 3 guys they got in free agency that were super impactful. None of those guys started.
Yeah, and those are probably like a total of $15 million, if that. Like,
So I feel like you have to have an established core and not try to build a core in free agency. You know what I mean? And the Nets don't have that right now. So they could go out and they would be a playoff team, but you're not going to win a championship. And I feel like if you're not going to win a championship with Giannis, then you shouldn't be seeking to trade for him.
Yeah. So sounds like to us, at least to me, the 2 best packages would be OKC and New Orleans. They'd have the best packages.
And Houston has a.
And Houston. I'm not a big Houston thing, but you are. Well, those are 3 West teams. Yeah. If Giannis goes to the West, the East is cooked. The East has no talent. I'm sorry. Like I understand. Yes, you still have the Cavs, you still have the Celtics, but overall, you look at the rest of the conference.
You mean like star power?
Like players.
You still got Tatum. You still got Brunson. You still got Cade.
Let's just talk about maybe not star power. Like let's just talk about like like watchability. I don't know. Like there's something so exciting about the West right now versus the East. Like I know the East is it's always been for like years and years. Like
just
a bit more grimy, a bit more, but like
musty.
like. And let's say Giannis goes like let's not say OKC, let's not say Houston, who are two teams that are already super watchable.
Yeah.
Let's say New Orleans, who people aren't watching. The West now has like these 12 super exciting teams. And we're talking about teams that didn't even make the play-in tournament that are exciting, like having Wembanyama, having, in this case, it'd be Giannis on the Pelicans, having, I think that's it because, the Jazz and Blazers or whatever. But, and then you just look at the East and like how many stars are like, are casual NBA fans super excited to watch. Let's talk about Tatum. Let's say the Cavs because they're so good. And like Donovan Mitchell, right? Cade Cunningham.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson.
Yeah. And
let's say Tyrese Halliburton. But even is that even one?
But even all 5 of those guys, Tatum is probably the most. Tatum or Cade or Jalen Brunson is probably drawing the most attention. But I mean, it feels like a lot of the time those guys fall outside of the category of draw that guys like, Anthony Edwards, Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Victor Wembanyama do, right?
Yeah.
And my thing is like the most watchable player in the East, unfortunately, is on a horrible team in LaMelo Ball. That's the guy in the East who probably would draw the most eyes if the Hornets were any good, but they're just awful, always. They have not been good since he got there.
Yeah, Trey's not doing that. Scotty Barnes isn't doing that.
No, and Scotty Barnes, I mean, maybe we'll do that next year, but like the thing about the East is it's a lot of good teams. Like just solid all-around teams. That's what you've got a lot of in the East.
Yeah, the East they're way more they're way deeper than these West teams are playing 6, 7, 8-man rotations.
Yeah,
and it's like
the East might be better basketball from a technical perspective,
but who's getting the eyes?
You don't like when your headliners are Bam Adebayo and Josh Giddey or Kobe White versus in the play-in game versus like Ja Morant and Steph Curry, you just don't care. You don't care to watch that. Or even like Anthony Davis and Domantas Sabonis and Zach LaVine. You know what I mean? Like there's just a difference in those names.
And it sucks because like,
and Bam's a great player. Like
us too, we live in Utah. We're kind of lucky. We have this middle ground of time zone. If you live in New York, you live in Florida, you live in any of these places, Chicago. Not even Chicago's like a whole hour. I think they're only an hour in between us.
They're Central Time.
Ideally you want the best basketball being played at for them 7:30 or for us 5:30. Like you want it earlier. But the fact that everyone for the best games has to stay up till midnight or 1 o'clock when you're on the East Coast, like that really sucks. Like ideally, I think NBA ratings would be a lot better if the East was in the position the West is versus the other way around. Because like before you had LeBron in the East, and like I think that's an underrated reason why TV ratings are lower now. Like I think this playoffs it's higher than normal, but in general. These last 5-6 years.
That's actually a really good point.
Like
I've never thought about that, but you're right. I mean, so much of the watching population is on the East Coast, and yet the best games are usually being played at a time where people can't watch them. Like we're fortunate because the latest we're going to stay up to is 11.
Yeah, 11.
And then we're going to go to bed, right?
People have to stay up till 1 o'clock, and they have work in the morning, so they can't watch. Like it really, man, Giannis can't. I mean, I'm not saying Giannis will be the big difference in ratings or whatever. I feel but it does suck for the NBA that if Giannis leaves the East, it's still good basketball and real diehard fans are still going to watch. But the casual person's not staying up, doesn't want to stay up till 1 o'clock unless they have to.
If the NBA does rig the draft, I'm saying if because we don't know. If Cooper Flag and AJ DeBonsta need to both go to the East.
Yeah.
Like the next 2 or 3 drafts need to have the number 1 pick go to the Eastern Conference team.
Which kind of sucks because the Jazz have been so bad. Well, you know what? They haven't been. They've only been so bad for 1 year. They don't have to win the lottery.
The Jazz are always one of those teams that I feel like is good then bad then good then bad. You know what I mean? Like they seem to fluctuate pretty standard. Like they had the Karl Malone and John Stockton years. Obviously, they were really good for those years. I think they made the playoffs like 20 years in a row or something like that.
Yeah.
Like they were kind of the Spurs before the Spurs. Not as good, but like, and then they had kind of some lean years and they got Darren Williams and they got Carlos Boozer and they got Paul Millsap and they were good for those years and they were a playoff team and then they got rid of those guys.
And they got Hayward.
Then they got Hayward and they were solid for those years and they got Mitchell and Gobert. So, I mean, overall the Jazz have not been in like the basement of the league.
Yeah, maybe they need a couple years of being in the basement.
They're not like the Wizards who were good for like 4 or 5 years and maybe with Arenas, but then no other time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
All right.
yeah. So I think that's it for the Giannis leaving talk. The one thing I do want to hit on just to end is what happened between Giannis Antetokounmpo and Tyrese Halliburton's dad.
Oh, right.
At the end of the Pacers-Bucks series. I'm sure most people have seen the video. If you're unfamiliar, after the Bucks lost Game 5 in overtime, which was the game that eliminated them from the playoffs, Tyrese Halliburton's dad walked onto the court, got into Giannis's face, was waving a towel with Tyrese's face on it, saying, "This is what we effing do. This is what the F we do." Basically talking shit to Giannis. And
you know what he said?
What?
He said, I was looking past him. I wasn't even looking at Giannis. I was looking past him.
Yeah.
Which is like a load of crap. Like,
yeah. And Giannis, I think it's come out, Giannis basically said, "Don't you ever effing disrespect me again like that." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, and Giannis, I was impressed with both how Giannis handled it in the postgame and how Tyrese handled it. I think that showed a lot of maturity from Tyrese, which is something that historically he has not displayed in spades. I think that's the one knock you can really have against him as a player.
Yeah,
is he's a kind of talker. He's kind of
loves
immature.
talking shit.
But he called his dad. He called him on it, and he told him not to do it. Now the Pacers have banned his dad from any future games for the foreseeable future.
Which I think is a little excessive. I think ban him from like the first 5 or 6 rows or something. But the fact that he can't even go to the game.
I think it wouldn't be a problem if he wasn't sitting front row. Because what's he going to do? Clamor over a bunch of people to get down to the court to talk to somebody else? And granted, he has a history of this. This is not the first time he's done something like this. He has a history of, kind of being a loudmouth, of talking to players. I actually don't know if Tyrese might have asked the organization to do this. And that's something that would be crazy, right? If that ever came out that he did. But he genuinely sounded pretty upset that his dad... And his dad and mom both do this, apparently. This whole, like, really involve themselves in the game. And if you've ever played even, like, AAU, you know how annoying it is when your parents, like, take over the game from you. Like, you're just there. You just want to play. You just want to, go hoop. And your, dad is screaming on the sideline at the referee, like, talking shit to the other coach. One time my dad even almost got, like, the entire gym cleared out. The ref threatened to kick all of the fans out of the gym if my dad kept talking.
That's crazy.
Because my dad had said to him, "Maybe you can find your glasses while you've got your head so far up your ass." Keep in mind, I was in like third grade. I was like 9 years old.
That's crazy.
And this was like a junior jazz thing, not even AAU.
That's hilarious.
My dad's
I don't think Halliburton would have, or I don't think Tyrese would have asked to do, because like I think the Pacers had to do something. Maybe you could say Tyrese wanted the punishment to be worse than it was going to be, but like I don't know, like they obviously had to do something. You know, like do you think if you think that Tyrese, because do you think that, or you just...
No, I'm saying it would just be interesting. I think given the way he talked about it in the post game, because he said something, he was like, I told him, just let me play the game. I'll come over. I'll say hi to you. I'll high five you. I'll celebrate with you.
Sounds like a 15-year-old.
Just let me play the game. Like,
yeah.
And that's what I mean. It's like there's a level to it, whereas an adult and as a man, you want to have your own stage, right? You're like, I've earned this. This is where I'm at. I appreciate everything you've given me. I appreciate everything you've done for me. But this is also my moment. It's not your moment. And you have to allow it to be my moment. I don't know what their personal dynamic is as father and son. I just know I've seen other fathers do that. And that I can understand, because my dad never did. My dad never took any shine from me. Yeah. Right? He was, he talked, but it was all like out of passion for me. Right?
Right.
This feels like Tyrese's dad holding him up as a trophy in some way and being like, look what my son can do. Yeah, my son kicked your ass, Like, it's just a little bit weird. So, but I do think, like you said, I think moving him up a few rows and banning him from the first 5 or 6 rows would have been a much more proportional response. I think the reason why I think that is it's just so odd to ban your star players' parents from the game. Like, don't you think that would affect them mentally?
But then again, yeah, maybe again, I don't think Tyrese would have said something about it, but maybe this actually does help Tyrese mentally.
And maybe they know that. Maybe they're like, he is a bit of a distraction.
Yeah, but shout out his dad. He stood on business, dude. Like he did not back down when Giannis went up to him.
He didn't. No,
Like,
I mean, he stood his ground. So for all the talking he was doing, he was ready to back that shit up.
because some people would have just started backing
And that's
up
Giannis. I would have started backing. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't have even gone up to him. You're telling that dude is a 6'11", huge motherfucker. Like, you're telling me you would have gone up to him after he just lost a series wearing the other team's colors?
You're not wrong, but also, what is he gonna hit you?
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time an NBA player has hit a fan. It's, I don't know, Corby. We use this mentality of like, you know, as a fan, like, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And then it's like, well, what is he going to do? Hit you? Yeah. Corby, it's coming. It's going to happen one of these days. One of these days, a player is going to swing on a fan. It's going to be another Malice at the Palace thing. And then, you know, we're going to have to deal with the ramifications of that.
Hey, dude.
I am personally of the belief, just because you are a fan and you paid for your seat doesn't mean you can say whatever you want. You still got to be accountable for your words. And if you're going to say something, you better be ready to back it up.
Okay, and I understand that. I understand that. And I would never be the type of fan that he was. I would go up to Giannis, wave my son's jersey, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you hit him, you better kill him because he's gonna get paid. if an NBA player hits you, you are getting a lot of money. So that's the thing.
Hell
where it's
yeah,
like,
you are.
Dude, if I'm him, I'm taking that risk of him hitting me.
I mean,
Are
I
you kidding
guess,
me?
I guess if that's your mentality, then sure, go ahead.
Even though I guess my son just made $40 million a year for 5-6 years. So
Like,
I mean,
I don't think he needs to get paid. I think
Yeah.
he's getting compensated just fine.
but so a broke dude like me, oh, you're gonna have to kill me, like because
Yeah,
if I live, I'm getting paid.
Hey man, my mom's a lawyer. I'm set up. I'm ready to go. But it's just the entitlement part, which we actually, there's an interesting situation with the NFL draft that we will be talking about at a later date.
Yeah.
That just goes towards that entitlement too. You are not entitled to speak however you want to someone without ramifications. Free country, freedom of speech, First Amendment. You can say whatever you want to say.
It's illegal.
But you also got to deal with the repercussions. You can't say whatever you want to say and just, that's that. No, First Amendment. I can say whatever I want. Sure. But you can also deal with the repercussions of that.
Yeah.
And someday someone is.
Yeah.
So
That's all I have to say.
yeah, that's all I got.
All right. That's going to be it. You guys let me know, who do you want to see Giannis on? What team do you guys want to see Giannis on? And what team do you actually think has the assets to trade for Giannis? Because even though we said a couple packages to Giannis, or not Giannis, Zion, Amen, it's Giannis at the end of the day. Like, I was kind of thinking
It's a
about, like, you
ton.
might need a ton, and it might just be OKC. But
It's a top 3 player in the NBA.
maybe top 15 in history, top 20. We can talk about that at a later day.
That's a
Yeah.
conversation.
Like, subscribe, whatever. Peace out.
See ya.